this brings me to my third point, third major obstacle, what I would call social or values obstacles. And specifically, today we see a sense of entitlement oftentimes, which privileges transitory fun over what I would say is true mental and physical flourishing, or what the ancient Greeks called eudaimonia. And this desire to just have fun manifests itself in different ways. So first, there's the I deserve it syndrome. Right? We've all heard a friend or a coworker or a family member or perhaps ourselves say, I deserve that piece of cake. Right? There's also the instant gratification piece here. We want things. We want them now. We want results now. We don't want to wait. And most of us don't want to really struggle to get what we want or to really challenge ourselves. I ask my students all the time, what's most important to you? What is your goal when you get out of college? And more often than not, they say the same thing. They say, I want to be happy, which is perfectly fine. And I don't mean to pick on my students here, but I would say that there are, and I think this is perfectly fine and appropriate because society tells us all the time just to be happy. And we see this obsession with happiness on the cover of Time magazine last year. And heck, happiness is even woven into our American creed. As Americans, we're told from birth to pursue life, liberty, and happiness. And this has created, I would say, a kind of cult of personal happiness, which shapes all aspects of our life today. In fact, a New York Times article from last year makes exactly this point. The two authors conclude that, quote, personal well-being and happiness have become the primary goals of human life. But I'd like to remind you all that happiness is not the only possible goal in life. Instead, we as individuals or society as a whole could value most social justice, artistic creation, athletic performance, the production of knowledge, sexual ecstasy, or what, again, the Greeks called eudaimonia, which, as I mentioned a moment ago, is best translated as a kind of holistic mental and physical flourishing. And in many ways, I think that's what the ancestral health movement is all about, trying to promote that holistic mental and physical flourishing. But as I just said, most people today, I think, are more interested in having fun, and oftentimes, frankly, in escapism. And as a result, they're not willing or motivated enough to invest the time, energy, and resources into living a paleo lifestyle. And let's be honest, it does take some effort. It does take some effort to do paleo. And I also believe this is a cross-generational issue. And I'm going to be an equal opportunity offender here, right? When I say, I think this feeling of entitlement and desire to just have fun can be found in millennials, in Gen Xers, and in baby boomers. Now, of course, the forms of fun and escapism vary from time to time and from generation to generation, but we are quite familiar with what these look like. Movies, television, video games and the web, pulp fiction, professional sports, and various forms of self-medication. I would argue that all of these activities fail to promote true physical and mental flourishing. They also lead to what cultural critic Daniel Mendelsohn has called the reality problem. In his recent book, Waiting for the Barbarians, Mendelsohn argues that new technologies and media have allowed us to, quote, become private in public and have caused a profound alteration in our sense of what is truth and what is fiction. In other words, we live in an era which it is possible to permanently escape into a kind of personal reality, separate from any common reality or separate from any kind of truth. He calls this the preeminent cultural event of our day. And I think this represents a real obstacle for the ancestral health movement going forward.